Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Thanks, Kimberly. Okay, Fast Leader Legion. You get the opportunity to actually have redemption with me today because I have a guest today that I had the opportunity to interview previously, but the audio just came out so bad that he gracefully agreed to do this interview again. So Parrish Arturi, thank you very much. Parrish was actually born in the Connecticut suburb just outside of New York, one of 6 kids that names all began with the letter P. Son of a doctor and nurse, a caring person, glad to have him on the show. Parrish is currently the Senior Vice President of Services, Operations, and Technology for Fidelity Personal Investments, which is a unit of Fidelity Investments. In this role, Parrish and his team are focused on the strategy and development of an industry-leading service, operating and technology platform that enables Fidelity's retail network to deliver outstanding experiences that drive business growth, customer engagement, scale, and competitive differentiation. Parrish, like my wife, is an alum of Wake Forest University, where he received both his undergrad and his MBA, and he currently serves as the vice chair of the Customer Experience Professionals Association, which is an international nonprofit organization created to guide and enhance the growing field of customer experience management. Parrish currently resides in the Boston area with his wife and 3 kids, and they currently just got back from a fantastic vacation in Europe, where Parrish has some strong family roots in both Ireland and Italy. Parrish Arturi, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Absolutely, and I'm thrilled to be with you again, Jim.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, I've given our listeners a little bit of information about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you better?
Sure. My current passion, and really my passion has been over the last several years and in my career, has been around helping people inspire better futures, helping people do better in terms of their financial life and in terms of their personal life as well.
Now, I mean, when you say that, something that, is really a passion for you, I mean, where does that really come from?
Where it comes from is, all the way back probably from my upbringing, which is about helping make the world a better place. And I think about my parents and what they were focused on and caring for people, helping the people they served, get to a better place with their health. And I think about how we're doing that and how I've really been passionate about that when I got into financial services. And then as I became a leader, it was also about helping the people that were part of my team, help them become better and leave a legacy.
Now, you're talking about legacy and you're talking about caring and things like that. You had shared with me that oftentimes, as far as a childhood memory is concerned, you had those Sunday dinners, grandparents that were first-generation immigrants. I mean, what impact do you think that actually had on where you are today?
I think it had a tremendous impact in terms of the time that we would spend together as a family, and in terms of the time that I would see my parents take, or my grandparents bringing people together, working hard, and that where a lot of the value was created was in the personal interactions and the relationships. And I thrive on those relationships. I like to think that one of the reasons that I've been able to be successful in some part in my career has been because of the relationships I've been able to build.
Now, you are one of those folks that when I see just the way that you interact with others, the way that you carry yourself, you seem just so collected and reserved. And so when you start talking about that passion and that inspiration piece, sometimes when you look at somebody who is so reserved, you're like, well, where's the passion? Where's the drive? And so at the Fast Leader Show, we really focus in on, quotes and things like that to kind of help us, really get that drive. I mean, do you have some of that internal passion that you keep bottled up that comes from some of those quotes? Can you share it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the passion's inside. It may not always be visible, right? So there may be a fire burning inside, but it's cool, calm, and collected outside. And again, that's certainly not always the case. But I pride myself on wanting to model the right behavior, the behavior that I would expect from others, and that passion certainly comes from, probably what I observed and what I experienced in the family. It may even be a birth order thing, quite honestly, where, 5th out of 6, there was a lot of activity going around me. And it was always a lot easier to observe and then react versus, being the one out in front all the time.
So what are some of those, quotes or passages that kind of, drives you?
Yeah, some of the quotes, there are a couple. I mean, one that I always think about is one from Martin Luther King that I find particularly poignant. And it's about the content of a man's character is not defined in times of comfort and convenience, but really where someone stands in times of challenging controversy. And so for me, over the years, certainly from a business perspective, as I've experienced those different times, everybody has ups and downs and ebbs and flows. And when there are good times, and enjoy them and relish them for what they are. And then in challenging times, where you're challenged most is probably where you're going to find the most insights, the most learnings about you and about what you can do to take forward and how you can really help others.
I mean, for me, even when you talk about that quote and why it means so much to you, I think it goes back to what I had mentioned before as for regards to being that reserved person, but yet has that inner drive and passion. I mean, it's really interesting to me how that quote is so congruent with the way that you behave. But there are times when we do, kind of lose it. As you, mentioned, it's not always calm and collected. We talk about getting over those humps on the Fast Leader show. I mean, can you remember a time where you've had a hump to get over where it kind of, I had to go through that. I had to go through that learning in order to kind of learn how to be more, reserved and collected for the future.
Sure. I mean, I think it was about having self-awareness and insight. And so that's part of the journey, part of the leadership journey over time. There was one particular time that I can remember, it was a hump. And it was back when I was leading new products and services, digital products and services. This is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when we were actually just starting to test out capabilities with the Palm Pilot, believe it or not, if anybody remembers what those are. And that we had enabled banking, electronic banking on the Palm Pilot. I was very passionate about it. I knew that this notion of mobility and wireless was going to be important. Obviously, it took several years for that to play out. But the product and the application that we had created, actually, it was a tough time at the particular bank that I was working at, and they wanted to reduce the funding and eliminate the product that we were working on. And I took that very personally. And I also had a run-in with the person that I was working for, who I respected tremendously, and she had a lot of experience. And basically, she told me, she said, you don't get it. You're not the one making the decisions. Other people have a perspective on this. And it was quite humbling for me. But it also made me reflect that the way that I was reacting to it had a direct influence on the perception that other people had for me in terms of the level of maturity and what how they may think about me in other roles that may be available. So like that was a really important moment for me, just kind of crystallize that, you don't always know everything, even though when you're younger that you, particularly as a freshly minted MBA, you might think that you know everything, but you don't, and that there are a lot of other perspectives that you want to take in, both next to you and then around you, that will help you become a better person.
A couple of things that stood out to me that you referred to, and you talked about, youth. And that was many years ago. And oftentimes those things do come back on us, but luckily, because we had that life experience, oftentimes we can correct ourselves much faster than we would going through that original experience. But if you think about a piece of advice that you would give to our listeners from that story and that experience, what would it be?
The big piece for me there is having self-reflection. So whether it's reflection in the moment or afterwards, and also I also had the benefit of having a great leader who was willing to provide that feedback to me. And that when you're able to reflect, self-reflection is a really important characteristic for us to have, either as leaders, as business leaders, or actually as people with families or relationships, that we want to make ourselves better and we want to make the others around us better.
So you had mentioned something about being, lower in the birth order and having the opportunity to observe before you stepped out. But, oftentimes we don't have that coach also that you referred to, because I had this conversation with somebody a little while back saying how, you know what, there's just not a whole lot of that goes on much more anymore. And there could be a lot of reasons for that. It could be just the overburden, task related, workplace and life that we live in that you can't, focus on. I ain't got time to focus on somebody else. I need to get this done. Right. But, so therefore I think we have to learn how to do more of that self-reflection, instead of relying for somebody else to kind of, point things out to us. I mean, is there something that you do to help you be more self-reflective?
There is, even on an annual basis. So as an example, I always think about setting goals for the year, both personal and professional, for what we're planning on doing for the year as a team. And then part of that process is actually reflecting back on the past year. Think about moments, projects, initiatives where we can derive some insight from. And so I think that's just kind of built into my DNA now. I learned that. It was a learned trait from another leader that I worked for. And so that's part of how I think about doing that. But it's also, as I think about either family or teams that I work with, I think we just build that into the dialogue and the conversation so that it becomes much more natural.
I think that's a very great point. First of all, to have it as part of your framework, and to practice it. Right. You can't just expect that it's just going to happen. It's something that you have to actually work at because, for me too, certain things like you're talking about. The first couple of times where I've actually done it, not so good, right? But right. You have to be persistent and you have to keep going on it. But if you think about like where you are right now and your current passions and the things that are really giving you in that excitement, what would it be?
What excites me most, Jim, are two things. One is when we think about the customers that we serve at Fidelity and the difference that we can make in their lives with their futures, whether it's with their children, whether it's their retirement, helping their goals and dreams become true. That's really compelling and important. And I find I'm very passionate about that and the work that we do in helping our customers get to a better place. I find very inspiring. The second thing that I was going to talk about would also be when I see that in teams or people that have been on my team. And one of the greatest thrills I get is when I see someone who had been on my team to see them advance and progress. And I get a tremendous amount of fulfillment from seeing the growth of someone's career that may have been on my team.
And, that's often a thing that is scary for a lot of leaders when you start thinking about having somebody who, has the talents and the skills that, may even surpass, ours. I think from my perspective, I want to be part of that development, but not everybody's there. So how do you feel about that? And how do you actually get past that hump?
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of insecurity that someone might feel like, if they have that. I think it's natural, but I also, again, reflect on my career, and there were people that helped bring me along. I wasn't always, the seasoned professional that I am today, and that others helped bring me along. So I kind of feel this is like paying it back, as well as, someone else modeled the right behavior that I aspire to be the same type of leader, same great leadership principles that they applied.
So you had mentioned something about that planning process and that reflection process. Typically, folks, when they do that, they also have a goal setting process. What is one goal that's important to you right now?
Well, the goal, our goal for this year, or the one over the next couple of years, has been around transforming the service experience for our customers and our retail branch network. And so how that manifests itself are in a couple of different ways, but it's about service quality, and it's also about the experience that gets delivered inside our investor centers. And so our goal for this year, we have measures around that. We instituted what we call a quality review process. And so our goal is to improve our scores in that quality review process by 20%. So that's like one very specific goal. But we start broader, and then we narrow them down in terms and time box them, and then think about what's the specific measures associated with them.
Well, the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. All right, here we go, listeners. It's time for the Humpty Hoedown. Okay, Parrish, the Humpty Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Parrish Arturi, are you ready to hoe down?
Absolutely, you got it.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Good question. For me, it's keeping the balance between being open to do new things, to test new things. Our environment is changing so rapidly in terms of the innovations, and balancing that with letting your past experiences dictate your perspectives on things.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Best leadership advice that I ever received was use the golden rule. So that's treat people how you would want to be treated yourself. It sounds so simplistic, but it's applicable to everything that you do. So if you think about it in terms of leadership, it's treat your team how you would want to be treated yourself if you were part of a team. Would you want to understand what our shared vision is? Would you want to know what your goals and objectives are? Would you want to get feedback and coaching? Absolutely. So if you think about things along those lines and apply the golden rule to your professional or your personal life, you're going to end up in a great place.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
You know, if I reflect over my career, it's really been building relationships, engaging people across diverse skill sets to achieve a common goal, a common outcome, and a purpose that whether it's in financial services or it was in marketing, it was really bringing people together across diverse groups and building those relationships.
What do you feel is one of your best resources that helps you lead in business or life?
Best resources are the mentors that I have from a business perspective. They're also the people that I have in the community. So as an example, the Customer Experience Professionals Association has been tremendously helpful in terms of the resources that we have. And then, you know, my probably most important resource is my wife, who provides me a ton of feedback and helps and supports in all of the work that we do.
What would be one book that you would recommend to our listeners?
Well, one that's on the top of my mind is Scaling Excellence. I just read it. It's by Huggy Rao, and it's basically how do you take concepts, and it's particularly relevant to what we do around customer experience, is how do you take those bright spots and how do you think about scaling them across a very broad network? So it's particularly relevant to people that work in large organizations, and how do you create and sustain excellence on an ongoing basis? All
right, Fast Leader listeners, you can find a link to that book and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Parrish Arturi. Okay, Parrish, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you have been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have back with you, but you can't take everything. You can only choose one thing. What skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
The skill and knowledge would be the ability to look at trends and to be able to engage in them faster. So if I think about all over the years, whether it's been in financial services or in the digital age, it's being able to look for trends and act on them quicker.
I could use that from a stock investment perspective too.
You're not the only one.
Parrish, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with Fast Leader listeners how they can connect with you?
They can connect with me electronically via email at parrish.arturi@gmail.com. They can connect with me on Twitter at @parturi is my handle, and also on LinkedIn.
Parrish Arturi, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Woo-hoo! Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.